What's up YouTube? I'm already in queue for the Expedition League, so if you're watching this in the future, the league was really good. It was probably one of the best launches I've ever seen. Smooth as butter, and I literally got in within the first 5 minutes. But topic of this video, I'm recording this before, is a lot of people ask me about the transition to the Aura Stacker. So I'm going to use a real world scenario, real world profile. It's probably one of the better players, I think, that does the Aura Stacker. So I'm just copying his POB. And this is a week 1 snapshot. And this is the gear that this fool was using on the first week. So the gear is like kind of like entry level-ish. Obviously the Bottle Faith is an outlier. But this person really wanted to use Bottle Faith because he knew how overpowered the flask was. But none of this stuff is like that crazy, I think. And I think all of this gear I pretty much bought while playing the Archmage BFBB build. And I did use a Darkness Enthroned. He used a Darkness Enthroned. So I'm going to go over the POB real fast. Because a lot of people will probably be looking to transition to it. Although I don't think you can really pull off the transition until after like 3 days. Unless you have just insane RNG. And find the most currency in the world. But that is possible. Some of you here could drop a mirror and then be able to transition faster than even I can. So the POB is around like 2.9 million damage. I think it probably lost around like 20 to 30% DPS when I converted over my tree. Because this is pretty low damage, 3.1 million damage in general. So I'm just going to go over all the gear real fast and what you should be looking for. So Nebulous, you want to try to get one of a good implicit. But the rolls on a Nebulous itself is probably more important. So you have to think about it like every percent is pretty much of the cold damage per cold resist, or lightning damage per lightning resist is roughly equivalent to 15% elemental damage, so it's really important. Prism Guardian is probably going to be pretty expensive. You can try to get a Grace Prism Guardian if you can pick it up cheap. I highly doubt it will be cheap though, so you can just get something like this to help you with Fizz mitigation. Now this is a Archdemon Crown. I think I actually crafted this later on. So this is just Awakened Orb together with elevated RMR and regular crit multi, and not elevated crit multi, and I multi-modded it. But this was before that I knew that you could use Ashling to get +2. Obviously, if you want to go for a cheap option, I would stick with an Alpha Sal. Shavs, try to get a +2 Shavs as soon as possible. You probably will not need it before you swap. Asanaps is something you should definitely buy early on. It helps to clear a lot, and it's pretty much a game-changing item if you're a self-caster or self-attacker. It makes it clear a lot better, and it's kind of like old school Explode, except a little worse in terms of the radius. Void Walker is what you use if you want to use Spark, because it gives you 5 additional Pierce while you have phasing. Now if someone wants to try using March of the Legion boots and using and having more phasing, or use March of the Legion boots to run the auras a lot easier, then you could try using those, but then you would have to get Pierce on your jewel. The Spark Jewel of Anomalous Spark. But Void Walkers, if you're not using March of the Legion, is a very good option. I haven't really done a POB out for the March of the Legion boots, but it should be viable. Now the amulet we have is, this is a synthesized amulet with the RMR implicit. This is actually a pretty good amulet because you could just use the essence of the multiplier essence. I think it's called the Essence of Scorn, and then all you have to hit is a flat ES roll on it. And then just craft on % ES and your amulet is pretty good. Now this is Call of the Brotherhood. Try to get an Aura implicit Call of the Brotherhood early on. It is very expensive later on, probably like 30 to 40x. And make sure the Call of the Brotherhood is 48%. Now, if you struggle with RMR, you can use a Darkness Enthroned. If you don't really struggle with it, you could use a Stygian. Darkness Enthroned is nice because you can get RMR, multi, and crit, and ES, which is very good. Because you can get 2% reduced mana reserved here rather than 1 with a regular Stygian. Another budget option is to probably use a Beta Breath Belt. So I'm using some ES Onslaught for seconds on kill. That's gone now from the game. And this is another ES multi. So you can see like 75% increased effect of Socket of Jewels. It actually makes the belt pretty good because it actually gives you like 50 ES and multi and fire damage to spells for the Cinder Swallow Urn. Now the flasks I still think are pretty much the same, except Cinder Swallow Urn is probably something I won't be using anymore. You can see it's 40 charges right now. But later on in the new patch, I think it's like 100 out of 150 charges, and that's just absurd. You probably still want to use a Quicksilver Flask of Adrenaline. I don't know what you probably still want to use a Diamond Flask. It's still 10% damage. Bottle Faith is actually 30% damage. Oh wait, it's because it has the, it's not updated in the POB yet. So the damage is probably a little lower. And it pretty much means you will need to use the crit strike gem no matter what. Aziri's Promise. This is unnerfed. So the flasks are kind of up in the air. I think Taste of Hate could be an option, and some people consider what's it called, Overflowing Chalice another option, but you just have to see how the flasks will feel. But the flasks are not as important anymore. Before, I would always recommend people to get the flask first. Bottle Faith will still be a pretty big damage increase, but it's not like #1 priority anymore, I think. So you use a RMR, Conqueror's Efficiency if you can. This jewel will go up a lot in price, so I generally recommend people to buy it early on. Same with RMR Intuitive Leap. I actually wasn't able to get one because it was just so expensive at this point. RMR Intuitive Leap and Might of the Meek will always go up in price to like 20x to 30x later on. So now we're just left with the Watcher's Eye. A Hatred crit Watcher's Eye is pretty much going to be a necessity because of our low crit, so I'm not using a Hatred crit Watcher's Eye right now. And since I'm using a rare helm, I'm using Immunity to Freeze Purity of Ice. So large clusters, you can use this. This is Burden Projection, Essence Rush, Practice Caster. This is usually like 25 to 30 chaos to start. What this does is it gives you some spell damage leech, I think, or just gives you spell damage and chance to avoid interruption. And it's like a really cheap large cluster with 3 notables on it. It's only like 25 to 30 chaos. And then your medium clusters will be, you need 2 first amount equals and Purposeful Harbingers. And then you will just want first amount replenishing on everything else. And if you struggle with with your reservation issues, you can get notables that reduce the reservation of an aura. So you can have the option of using Sublime Form for reducing grace, Pure Aptitude for, I think, like, is it Discipline or something? Yeah, or you even use Uncompromising for Determination, but you should not be using Determination. So if you don't have the RMR, you can try doing that, or you can use March of the Legion boots. March of the Legion boots is probably not going to feel very good with Spark, and I would probably not use it at all. So you can use the Voices if you want to get the aura effectiveness. I don't know what the aura effectiveness is on this build that I was running, but yeah, it's way over 300%. So you technically do not need the Voices, and you could just use 3 large clusters. But you can see the build is pretty high level. It's level 95, and that's the level I got to before I swapped. We have Vengeful Commander is another good one for a large cluster with Blast Freeze, but this one's pretty expensive. Probably be like 5 to 6x, but I actually was able to snipe it up for 2x, which is why I'm using it in this profile. So you can see the defenses are not too bad. It's still 4,100 ES. I think there might be some issues with running... Oh, I'm not even running Empowered Discipline. But like I was saying, later on when you want to empower the discipline, it is something of note that empowers 140% mana multiplier instead of 125, which will make it a lot harder to run. But low life is definitely the way to go. You don't want to be not low life. The damage is a massive difference. So if you want to see how big the damage is, all you have to see is you take off Pain Attunement, you're at 2.2 mil, and then you go to RF and you turn it off, and I'm not even running RF on this setup actually, but basically it's pretty much half damage to not go low life. I would not do it, especially when we are already lacking damage so much in the beginning. And this is another note here with Intuitive Leap that you can take to fix your mana issues. Since mana is going to be a problem, you want to have around double the mana it costs to cast your Spark. So usually for Spark it's around like 140 mil. So thanks for everyone following on Twitch. I should have disabled the notifications, but yep. This is pretty much the aura stacker for you. I think the defenses are still pretty good. Not the best in the world because it doesn't have a guard skill, but it's definitely not too bad at all. This is just a very preliminary POB. There will probably be changes, especially in the flask. I just wanted to get this out to everyone because a lot of people actually ask me like, what is a tree for the beginner aura stacker? The fact of the matter is that the aura stacker has not changed really much at all. The only thing is the gem links. I wanted to talk about the gem links real fast. You probably want to run Crit Strike's gem. Pinpoint is higher damage, so is LA Focus, but those are real links. And if the damage difference is only like 3%, and it makes the, a lot closer, or makes the crit chance a lot higher to feel more consistent, then it's definitely worth taking the 3% loss in overall DPS for something that's not conditional on you always casting. So run Crit Strikes. Arcane Surge is pretty good. Yes, the #1 skill. Spell Echo is mandatory. Inspiration is mandatory. And Cold Pen is barely nerfed. So yeah, I think these are going to be the guaranteed links you'll be running for Spark. But I hope this video helped out everyone for people who want to transition to a Spark, eventually this damage will be 50 to 60 mil once you get good enough gear. It's kind of crazy to think about, but it will happen. I think Smite is actually the big thing here. I'm not even sure I'm running Smite in this stuff. Well, you are running Smite, and there's no haste. Yeah, so the damage is actually a lot higher than what it is because there's no RF. So this prob is probably like 6 to 7 mil. So you can see how much Smite will scale to skill now. So once you get to like, look how much Smite will be. Level 29 Smite in Hands of the High Templar, already like 60-70% more damage. But I hope this helps out everyone and you guys all have a smooth transition for the League start for whatever build you'll be playing. This will be probably the build diary number 1, right? Or build diary day number 0. And I will be doing the series. I'll be going over money making strategies that I'm doing and things I discover with my builds and just anything I share and some cool highlights from the stream. But I hope you tune in. It should be a blast. And like I said, if you're watching this right now, hopefully the Ultimatum or the Expedition League was really good and the launch was smooth. And you're still not waiting in queue. But thanks for watching, everyone. And I hope you find more mirrors and exalts tonight than I do. And see you next time.